There are moments in life when the noise within becomes louder than the world outside, when anxiety creeps in like a quiet storm, reshaping how we breathe, think, and exist. What if your restlessness was not a curse, but a calling? You are not broken, you are becoming. Each anxious thought, every racing heartbeat is not a sign that you're lost, but that you're being stirred awake by life itself. Like the pause between musical notes, your discomfort is part of a divine rhythm, an unseen choreography that connects you to something vast, sacred, and deeply intentional. The mind resists stillness, but the soul understands. And when you learn to meet your anxiety, not with fear, but with presence, you begin to hear the music again. You were never out of tune, only learning to recognize your place in the symphony. You know, we spend so much of our lives trying to escape discomfort. We run from it, numb it, silence it, and when it shows up in the form of anxiety, we treat it like something that's gone wrong inside of us, like a glitch in the system. But what if I told you anxiety isn't the enemy? What if I told you it's actually a messenger? Stay with me here. Stay with me here. Think about how your body works, how pain shows up when something needs your attention. You touch something hot, your hand pulls away before you even think. Your body protects you, right? Well, anxiety. Anxiety is like that. It's not here to punish you. It's here to protect you. It's a signal, not a life sentence. A whisper from deep within saying, hey, something's out of alignment. Look here, come home to yourself. And I know it doesn't feel that poetic when your chest is tight at 2 a.m. When your mind is racing like it's chasing something, it can't quite catch. It doesn't feel divine when you're overthinking every word you said, or replaying conversations like a broken record. But just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's meaningless. Actually, it means the opposite. Your anxiety is trying to wake you up, not to fear, but to truth. Because here's the thing, anxiety isn't always about what's wrong now. It's often about what's unspoken, unfelt, or unlived. It's the residue of avoiding yourself, of living out of sync with who you really are. It's the noise that rises when you've stopped listening to the quiet voice inside you, the one that knows what matters, what you need, what you're here for. But we've been taught to see that voice as inconvenient, too soft, too slow for a world that rewards urgency. So instead, we live in reaction mode, default mode, and we wonder why our insides feel like they're constantly spinning. You're not broken. You're responding. Your anxiety is your nervous system's way of saying, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overextended, and I've forgotten how to be still. It's not asking you to fight harder. It's asking you to slow down and listen, not to the fear, but to the space beneath it. I want you to think about something for a second. What if, instead of pushing your anxiety away, you treated it like a child tugging at your sleeve, trying to get your attention? What if you turned to it and said, okay, I see you. I hear you. What do you need? That simple act of acknowledgement can shift everything, because suddenly you're no longer the one being chased. You're the one leading the conversation. And here's where the shift begins. When you stop trying to suppress your anxiety and instead ask what it's trying to show you, it stops being a threat. It becomes a guide, a mirror, a deeply honest companion pointing you towards something unresolved, something sacred. You want the truth? Most of the people who feel anxious are the ones who care deeply, who think deeply, who feel the world. And when you suppress that sensitivity, it turns against you. But when you honor it, it becomes a gift, a superpower even. But only if you're willing to lean in instead of numb out. The goal isn't to get rid of anxiety. That's not the point. The point is to understand it, to see it for what it is, an invitation back to yourself. Every anxious thought is a breadcrumb. Every racing heart is a signal flare. Something in you is saying, this isn't who I am, or this isn't safe, or I need to change something. The moment you stop resisting those signals, the healing begins. Now let's be clear. This isn't about sitting in suffering or glorifying your pain. It's about recognizing that your inner world, every twist, turn, and tangle isn't random. It's part of your unfolding, a part of your story. And anxiety, it's a chapter, not the whole book. So the next time anxiety shows up, don't slam the door on it. Don't label it as wrong or weak or something to hide. Instead, Open the door. Let it sit with you. Ask what it came to teach you. You might be surprised what rises to the surface when you stop running and start listening. Because maybe, just maybe, the anxiety you feel today is the very thing that will lead you back to your most honest, most grounded, most powerful self. You're not broken. You're being called back to alignment. Let's talk about control. Not the healthy kind, the kind that helps you steer your life in a meaningful direction. I'm talking about that tight grip we keep on everything. The obsession with making sure every detail is perfect, every outcome predictable, every emotion neatly managed, boxed up, and hidden away. And if you struggle with anxiety, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, because anxiety and control, they dance together. One feeds the other. But here's the hard truth. Most of what we're trying to control isn't actually ours to hold. And the more we tighten our grip, the more life pushes back. You see, the anxious mind is constantly scanning for danger. It's trying to protect you. That's its job. But over time, that protection becomes a prison. Your mind starts to believe that if it can just think enough, plan enough, prepare enough, you'll finally feel safe. You'll finally feel okay. But has that ever really worked? Has micromanaging every part of your day, every conversation, every possible outcome ever actually brought you peace? No, because control doesn't create peace. It creates pressure. And what we don't realize is that all that mental control, the overthinking, the anticipating, the replaying, is just a desperate attempt to avoid uncertainty. Because uncertainty feels like danger, like chaos. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if uncertainty isn't the enemy, but the entry point? Think about it. Every meaningful thing in your life, love, growth, creativity, healing, all of it lives on the other side of uncertainty. Every transformation begins with a moment of surrender, with the terrifying decision to let go. Because letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting something bigger than your thoughts. It means loosening your grip on the illusion of control and stepping into presence. Here's what I've learned, and not just from books or podcasts, but from real life, messy, gut-wrenching experience. The more I resist life, the more anxious I become. The more I try to control everything around me, the more out of control I feel. But the moment I stop, the moment I breathe and let life be what it is, something shifts. The noise quiets. Not because the world changed, but because I did. Surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the moment you stop fighting the current and learn to. It's when you realize that not everything needs your reaction. Not every thought needs to be followed. Not every fear needs to be solved. Some things are just clouds passing through, and you're the sky, unmoved, expansive, timeless. When you let go of control, you create space for something far more powerful to take its place. Trust. And I don't mean blind, naive trust. I mean deep, embodied trust. Trust in your resilience. Trust in your ability to meet life as it comes. Trust that even when it's hard, you're not alone and you are not lost. I know surrender sounds poetic, but let me bring it down to earth. It's in the pause before you react to a text that triggers you. It's in the decision to breathe instead of spiral. It's in choosing to go for a walk when your mind wants to keep arguing with itself. It's in accepting that you can't fix other people and you don't have to. It's in the tiny moments where you release the grip and choose presence instead. And guess what? That's the moment anxiety begins to soften, because anxiety thrives in control, but it fades in connection. When you reconnect with yourself, your body, your breath, your truth, anxiety has nowhere to land. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know the end of the story. You just have to be willing to let go of the illusion that you're supposed to. There is a rhythm to life that doesn't need your micromanagement. There is a grace that flows when you stop paddling upstream. And maybe that grace, God, the universe, intuition, whatever language speaks to you, maybe that grace has been waiting for you to stop controlling long enough to receive it. So here's the invitation. Next time your anxiety flares up, notice how much you're trying to control, not with judgment, but with honesty. And then try this. Let go just 1 inch, one breath, one thought. You don't have to drop the whole thing. Just loosen the grip. Because the truth is, life was never asking you to control it. It was asking you to trust it. Let go of control, and you'll finally feel what freedom was supposed to feel like. Let's get into something that changes everything once you truly understand it: the power of observation. And I don't mean observing the world around you. I'm talking about observing yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, the way your mind spins stories out of silence. Most people don't realize this, but we go through life so deeply identified with our thoughts, we forget that we're the ones thinking them. We wake up in the morning, and the second our eyes open, the mind starts chattering. You're already behind. You should have gone to bed earlier. Why did you say that yesterday? Before we've even brushed our teeth, we're drowning in a narrative we didn't consciously choose. Here's what's wild. We don't question it. We just believe it. Every anxious thought, every worst case scenario, every doubt, every fear. We let it move in, unpack its bags, and take control. Why? Because no one taught us how to observe the mind. No one taught us that we are not our thoughts. So let me say it clearly. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them, and that tiny shift in awareness, that is the trick. That is the door out of the anxiety spiral. When you learn how to observe what your mind is doing, without judging it, without panicking about it, you create a gap, a little bit of space between you and the noise. And in that space, you get your power back. Let me give you an example. Let's say your mind throws up a classic anxiety line. What if everything goes wrong? Instead of grabbing onto that thought and running with it, what if you just noticed it? Oh, look at that. My brain is running the what? If everything goes wrong, program again. Interesting. That shift from being inside the thought to witnessing the thought changes everything. It doesn't mean the anxiety disappears instantly, but it does mean you're no longer at its mercy. You're no longer spiraling down with it. You've stepped into the observer's seat. And from there, you have a choice. That's where your power lives, in the pause, in the noticing, in the space between stimulus and response. It's like watching a movie. Said, why watching a movie? You feel every moment like it's your own. You tense up, you cry, you laugh. But when you remember it's a movie, you still feel it, but you're not lost in it. You have perspective. The same is true for your mind. Your thoughts are not facts. They're just suggestions. Your brain is like a playlist, and sometimes it's stuck on a track that doesn't serve you anymore. Anxiety loves to hit repeat on the same old songs. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's true. Just because it feels urgent doesn't mean it's important. And let's be honest, some of the stuff our minds come up with, if someone said it to us out loud, we'd think they were nuts. But when it's coming from inside our own head, we treat it like gospel. So here's what you do. Become curious. Curiosity is the antidote to judgment. When the anxiety shows up, don't panic. Get curious. Ask, where is this coming from? Is this mine? Or is it something I picked up along the way? What is this thought trying to protect me from? Because here's what's really going on. Your anxious mind is trying to keep you safe. It's scanning for danger. It's preparing you for the worst. It's doing its job, but it doesn't realize you're not in danger anymore. You're just trying to live, to breathe, to be. The more you observe without attaching, the more you retrain your nervous system. You show your brain, hey, I see you. I know you're trying to help, but I've got this now. You reestablish yourself as the authority. Not fear, not reaction, you. And don't worry if it feels hard at first. This is a practice. It's like strengthening a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it becomes to catch the thought before it takes you for a ride. The easier it becomes to recognize, oh, this is just the old fear story again. I don't need to follow it. Eventually, that space between you and your thoughts gets wider, and in that space, peace, stillness, freedom. You don't have to fight your thoughts. You don't even have to fix them. You just have to stop believing every single one. And when you do, anxiety starts to lose its grip, not because you've suppressed it, but because you've outgrown the illusion that it's who you are. You are not your mind. You are the awareness watching it all unfold. And when you finally remember that, you stop reacting and you start living. Let's talk about something most of us miss when we're in the middle of anxiety. The stillness that's always there underneath the chaos. I know that might sound strange, especially when your heart is racing, your breath feels shallow, and your mind is spinning faster than you can keep up with. In those moments, stillness feels like the furthest thing from your experience. But the truth is, it's not gone. It's just buried, covered by the noise. And part of this journey, part of the work of rewiring how we respond to anxiety, is learning how to return to that place of stillness. And no, I don't mean silence like sitting in a room and doing nothing. I'm talking about the stillness within you. That deep, unshakable space that isn't moved by what your thoughts are saying or what your nervous system is doing. That calm center has always been there. It's your home base. The anxiety doesn't erase it. It just distracts you from it. Think of it like this. Imagine a lake. When the wind is howling and the waves are crashing, the surface looks chaotic, even violent. But if you dive down just a few feet, you'll find it's calm, quiet, undisturbed. Your mind is like that. Your mind is like that. The surface might be stormy, but the depth, it's still. It's always been still. The trick is remembering how to go beneath the surface. Most people try to calm their anxiety by changing what's happening around them, fixing external problems, chasing distractions, micromanaging their lives. But that only ever works temporarily. It's like trying to stop a hurricane by rearranging your furniture. What actually works is learning how to drop inward, to find that part of yourself that isn't caught in the storm. And you don't have to be a monk to do this. It doesn't take hours of meditation. Sometimes it's as simple as pausing and placing your hand over your chest, taking one deep breath, slowing everything down long enough to feel where you are instead of where your mind is taking you. Because when anxiety flares up, your mind wants to race into the future. It wants to play out every possible outcome, control every variable, solve problems that don't even exist yet. That's its job: protect, predict, prepare. But that same instinct pulls you away from the one place where peace actually lives, the present moment. You can't think your way into calm. You feel your way there. And that's why stillness matters. Not because it magically erases anxiety, but because it reminds you that there's more to you than the noise. You are more than your thoughts. You are more than your panic. You are more than the voice in your head that says, something's wrong. In fact, nothing is wrong with you. Your system is doing what it was wired to do. It's just running too hot, too fast, too often. Stillness isn't about stopping life. It's about reconnecting with it. It's about returning to that part of yourself that doesn't need fixing, proving, or performing. And let's be honest, so much of our anxiety is actually a response to disconnection. We've become so distracted, so overstimulated, so on all the time that we've forgotten how to simply be. No phone, no noise, no solving, just breath, just presence, just now, passive. It's powerful. It's the place where you begin to hear your own voice again, under all the conditioning, under all the expectations, under all the pressure. It's where clarity lives, where wisdom lives, where peace begins to rise, not because everything is perfect, but because you have remembered who you are. You don't find stillness by forcing quiet. You find it by letting go of the mental clutter, letting go of the need to have all the answers. Letting go of the story that says you have to hustle for your worth or hold it all together to be okay. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do in a chaotic world is to sit with yourself, breathe, and just be. It's in that stillness that healing begins. It's in that stillness that you realize the anxious thoughts are like weather patterns. They pass. They always do. But the sky doesn't change. That's who you are. You are not the storm. You are the awareness that holds it all. When the thoughts get loud, when your chest tightens, when everything feels like too much, I want you to remember this. Stillness isn't something you go out and find. It's something you come back to. Because peace isn't out there. It's in here, and it's been waiting for you to return. You ever notice how life has this way of moving? Like a rhythm, a pulse, and sometimes when we're anxious, it's like we've fallen out of sync with it. Like the world is still spinning, but we're stuck on pause, frantically trying to catch up or control the tempo. That's what anxiety feels like. It's not just mental, it's energetic. You feel disconnected from yourself, from others, from the natural flow of things. And when that connection is lost, you start to believe the lie that you're alone, that everyone else is managing just fine and you're the only one quietly unraveling. But that's not the truth, not even close. Because here's what's real. You are not separate from this world. You are not some isolated being trying to survive a hostile universe. You are a part of something infinitely bigger, interwoven into a fabric of life that's ancient, intelligent, and wildly creative. And your anxiety, as strange as it sounds, even that belongs. Even that is part of the dance. Every challenge we face, every uncomfortable emotion, every sleepless night, every doubt and fear isn't just some glitch in our journey. It's a movement, a turn in the choreography. And the more we resist it, the more out of rhythm we feel. But when we stop fighting and start listening, really listening, we begin to realize that life isn't working against us. It's working through us. The anxiety that feels like a storm might actually be the rain your soul needed to grow something new. I mean, think about it. Nothing in nature blooms all year. Trees shed, oceans rise and fall. Even the moon disappears for a while. Why do we expect ourselves to be any different? Why do we treat our moments of anxiety, of fear, of pause, as if they're failures, when they might just be sacred parts of our unfolding? There's a divine intelligence running through everything. Call it the universe. Call it God. Call it whatever resonates, but it's there. And when you really start to slow down and pay attention, you can feel it. In the way the sun rises without fail. In the way a wound knows how to close. In the way your breath returns, even when you forget to notice it. You are a part of that, not separate from it. And that means your anxiety isn't some defect. It's a part of the language life uses to communicate with you. Sometimes it's the only way your soul can get your attention. That restlessness you feel, that pressure in your chest, that sense that something isn't right, it might be because you've been dancing to someone else's rhythm, living a life that looks good on the outside but feels misaligned on the inside. When we ignore our inner knowing, anxiety becomes the alarm. But that alarm isn't there to shame you. It's there to wake you up. To remind you that you're here for something deeper, something truer. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask the right questions. What am I ignoring? What part of me is begging to be heard? Where did I fall out of step with myself? Because here's what's waiting on the other side of that awareness. Connection. Connection to your body, your values, your truth. And once you find that rhythm again, once you remember how to move with life instead of against it, you start to feel something shift. It doesn't mean you'll never feel anxious again. It means the anxiety won't own you anymore. It won't define you. It becomes just one note in a much larger, more beautiful song. And you begin to trust the pauses. You stop seeing your low moments as problems and start recognizing them as part of the cycle. Like the space between notes in a song, the silence is what gives the sound meaning. You've never been disconnected. You've only forgotten that your life is a thread in a much greater tapestry. That even in your struggle, you're held. That even in your confusion, you're still on path. So the next time you feel the anxiety swell, I want you to pause. I want you to breathe. And I want you to remember this. You are not broken. You are becoming. And even this, especially this, is part of the rhythm that's guiding you home. You've never been out of step, just learning the beat of your own becoming. There's this moment. If you've ever dealt with anxiety, you know it, where it feels like everything is spinning, and the only thing you can do is brace for impact. Your chest tightens, your thoughts race, and your body's reacting like the world is ending. And the wild thing is, sometimes nothing's actually happening on the outside. But inside, it feels like a 5-alarm fire. And in that moment, it's so easy to believe that you're powerless. That anxiety has hijacked your body, your mind, your day, your life, that you have no control. But that's not the full truth, because even in the middle of that spiral, there's a part of you that's still awake, still aware, still watching. And that part, that's your power. That's your anchor. That's the part of you that anxiety can't touch. You've probably heard this 100 times. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. It sounds nice, right? But when you're panicking or spiraling into worst case scenarios, it's hard to believe because your nervous system is reacting before your logic can catch up. Your brain is trying to protect you, and your body is already in fight or flight. But here's what most people don't know. The very fact that you can notice that it's happening, that you can say, okay, my mind is racing, my chest is tight, I'm feeling anxious. That awareness, that is the doorway out. That's where your authority begins. Awareness gives you the space to respond instead of react. It gives you a split second of choice. And in that space, everything shifts because the more you train yourself to notice instead of believe every thought, the more you reclaim ownership over your experience. You stop being a passive passenger in the backseat of your own mind, and you get back in the driver's seat. And I get it. That space doesn't always come easy, especially when you've spent years letting anxiety call the shots. But every time you pause and say, wait a second, I see what's happening here. You're retraining your brain. You're sending a message to your body that says, Eve, we've got this. And that message matters. It might be quiet. It might not make the anxiety vanish in an instant, but it interrupts the pattern. And that interruption, that moment of conscious awareness, is where your healing starts. It's not about pretending the anxiety isn't there. It's about showing up differently when it is. And that right there, that's the difference between being at the mercy of your anxiety and rising as the conscious witness of it. You don't have to fix every thought. You don't have to wrestle every emotion into submission. You just have to wake up to the fact that you have a choice. That there's a deeper part of you, calm, clear, capable, that can meet the storm without being swallowed by it. This is how you reclaim your inner authority, not by forcing yourself to be fearless, but by choosing again and again to stay grounded in awareness, to breathe when your mind screams run, to stay curious when your thoughts start spiraling, to remind yourself, just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. Just because I feel it doesn't mean it defines me. That's the work. Not fixing yourself, but remembering yourself. Remembering that you are not your fear. You are not your past. You are not the voice in your head that's stuck on repeat. You are the one who sees it all, the one who can interrupt it, redirect it, soften it, the one who can stand in the middle of the storm and say, I'm still here, because this isn't about winning a war against anxiety. It's about no longer letting it rule you. You've lived long enough letting fear write the script. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be present, to stay aware, to choose even in the mess, to come back to yourself. And the next time anxiety shows up, I want you to remember this. You don't need to escape it. You don't need to fight it. You just need to meet it as the grounded, powerful, conscious creator that you are. Because when you stop running from your mind and start standing in your awareness, that's when you rise. That's when you take your power back.